When your throat is ripped out like that, it is pretty hard to come back. Hi, my name is Alyssa, and I like to talk about movies, and today we are talking about Sinners. Sinners is Ryan Coogler's fourth feature film and his first wholly original feature, which is kind of amazing that we're getting it now. Set in the 1930s Jim Crow, Mississippi, Sinners follows twin brothers Smoke and Stack as they reconnect with their past to build a juke joint for their community. But things take a sharp turn when an unwanted Irish vampire comes knocking at their door. Reunited with Michael B. Jordan, who truly is his muse, Coogler has crafted a movie that is just pure cinema. It is this beautiful, complex, neo-blaxploitation, southern gothic, vampire galore movie that is just wrestling with the complexities of the beauty and the terror and the celebration of blues music, of black lives, of black culture in the South. It's just so many things, and I love it. Bringing back all his frequent collaborators and even cutting a very rare deal with the studio to get his rights back to Sinners after 25 years. Coogler made a movie that isn't just a piece of cinema. It is literally a celebration of art itself. And if you look past the marketing, which really sells this movie as a true jump scare vampire movie, Sinners is something so much more than genre. But it also raises a great question about how we preserve great art and raise up the artists who create it without exploiting them. There's a lot of yap around this movie within like film media that has been absolutely pissing me off. I'm foaming at the mouth thinking about it right now. But like the conversations that people have around black artistry and just like the state of cinema made by people who aren't white heterosexual males. Ew. Like there was an article that came out over this weekend that was like, oh my God, Coogler cut a deal with the studio where he gets his rights back after 25 years. It's the end of the studio system. Okay, why weren't you saying that when Tarantino's cut the same exact deal for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which had a very similar budget and had a very similar box office weekend, but when that movie came out, everyone was like, cinema. When this movie comes out, you have Variety releasing an article that's like, well, it could have made more money. What the fuck is happening? Like, can you tell me 5 movies this year that are profitable on their opening weekend? You can't, because it hasn't happened yet, girls. The last movie that did that was Wicked, and it only made back its budget. It didn't even make back its year-long marketing budget. I can't with that baloney. It just like really ends up pissing me off at the end of the day, because it's like, how can you not celebrate when something works? And this movie fucking works. I've also seen Sinners be called the Black from Dusk Till Dawn, and like, love the movie, one of my all-time favorites, love a toe suck, but that isn't this movie. It's in the same genre, it has the same formula, but it is not the same movie with the same concepts and the same goals. Like, where is the media literacy? Is it in the room with me? And like, sure, it took me a minute and a little bit of like listening to other people talk about this movie to like fully get it, but like I did the work to like understand this movie that I was having a hard time like peeling back the layers from. I can only approach this movie really through genre to connect with it. Like, this isn't a story where I am the target audience, you know, and that's okay. That's how art should be. But it is on me to do the work, to do the efforts to meet this movie halfway. But beyond the like a little bit of work I had to do on my own time, this movie rocked my socks off. I was having a great time. I was hooting and hollering in the theater, which, yes, I did watch on 70mm. I'm single-handedly keeping film alive. And the reason I was having such a great time with this movie is because, again, I am a whore for genre. Full disclosure, don't know if you know this, but I love a vampire movie. I love Twilight, The Lost Boys, Interview with the Vampire, you know, the classics. Basically, essentially, I just love a really gothic-ass tale about people being super dramatic for absolutely no reason except for, like, the desire to be wanted. But I was a girl who was swayed by marketing, and capitalism really got my ass. So I had to do a little bit of mental gymnastics to, like, reset my expectations for what I thought Sinners was gonna be. And once I kind of, like, got into it, girls, strap me in, I'm here for the long haul. Is there still horror to this movie? Of course. But is this movie just truly a melodramatic Southern Gothic tale? Yeah. And it is truly a delight to watch, even if there is a little too much going on. I'm gonna say it, it's not a perfect movie. But the fact that it's a studio movie that got made, That's cinema, baby. Literally, this is what Seth Rogen's character in the studio is like trying to like pioneer. He's like, I want to have auteur filmmakers making original content that people love. This would make that man goon. But what makes this movie essential viewing? Let's get into it. I also should have told you that I was drinking a sake that is unfiltered. And so it looks cloudy. I don't know if you could see that very well. Because it kind of reminds me of a certain scene that happens later in this movie. But this doesn't taste great. And it's chunky. But it gets me a little bit, you know? Why is it chunky? I mean, it doesn't taste bad. It's just like, it's like drinking coconut water with alcohol in it. And I don't love that. I'm going to keep sipping on this and see what happens. We open with some lore about the power of music and its ability to open time and space and connect the past, future, and present all onto one timeline like Arrival, you know. But because it has that power, it does draw in some unsavory characters. We then get to meet a bloody, bruised, and beaten man driving up to a church on a Sunday morning. And this, my friends, is Sammy. Sammy is played by Miles Caton, and this is his first movie ever. Give him his Oscar. He is looking rough, and he is gripping the handle of a broken guitar as he strides into a church. The pastor looks at him and beckons Sammy to come into his arms and renounce the devil. So how do we get here? Well, first, we gotta see what the heck happened. We time jump to 25 hours earlier where Sammy is working as a sharecropper and trying to get his day over with as soon as it starts. He wants the day to himself so he can have some freedom. And what does freedom look like to him? I'm so glad you asked. Freedom to Sammy looks like playing the blues with his cousins all day long. Speaking of cousins, I think it's time to meet Smoke and Stack. Played by Michael B. Jordan, pulling double duty on this movie. Cinema. He is playing twin Smoke and Stack, who are World War II veterans who just came back from Chicago after allegedly hanging out with Al Capone. Okay. And when I tell you these men are tough, I mean these men are tough. They are shaped by survival, but yet they're so different. You have Smoke, who is calm, cool, and collected, but he has a little bit of a shake going on. And then you have Stack, who has a smile that sends a shiver down my spine in two different kind of ways. And they've decided that it is time to dance with the devil they know down in the Mississippi Delta, i.e. the Klan. Guys, you want to something crazy? So I grew up in Missouri, and so sometimes we just do a lot of road trips, you know? And there's a town in Arkansas that is a Klan town that literally has billboards up for the Ku Klux Klan. Like, so why are the twins back in Mississippi? Well, they've caused some problems in Chicago by stealing some Italian wine and Irish booze because, you know, Prohibition. So that's a big upset for those gangs up there. But they have dreams of starting a juke joint down in the city for their community. And they found the perfect location for it in an old sawmill. Unfortunately, the owner is a man named Hogsworth, i.e. Hollywood, who is, he's a Klan member. But the brothers buy the land and they tell Hogsworth that if he even steps a single foot near the mill, that he will meet a fate worse than death. And now that they have a location, it's time to get some music. Sammy goes to grab his guitar because his cousins are on the way, but he notices that it's missing, and he's like, I know where it is. He goes into the church where the pastor, i.e. his father, is like, Sammy, I want you to give sermon tomorrow. You need to be here on the dot. Can you do it? Sammy's like, of course, I'll be here, but I just want freedom for the day. I just want to go and play blues. If you did not know this, around that time, everyone associated blues with the devil's music because people did sinful things like not leave room for Jesus on the dance floor or drink alcohol. But this is freedom for Sammy. His dad loves him enough to be like, go and do your thing, son. And just in time because Smoke and Stack are here to pick him up. They grab Sammy and they pick him up and they reveal that they have stolen a bunch of this liquor from Chicago. And they're like, this is the plan. We're going to open up a juke joint. We need a team. Can you help us out? Sammy's like, of course, I'll do whatever you guys want. I'm just here for a good time, not a long time. Smoke's like, great, I'll take the drinks, I'll go to town, I'll get some food for tonight. Stack and Sammy, you are in charge of getting the band together. Got it? Good. Go. Stack and Sammy end up going to the train station where they meet Delta Slim, played by Delroy Lindo. And boy, howdy, can he play the harmonica. He is playing that harmonica so good that Stack is like, sir, I will pay you $15 tonight to be at my juke joint and play some blues. Delta Slim is like, no. This man loves job security. And he's like, I hate to tell you this, hon, but your juke joint might not be here next week. Or the week after that, I got a gig where I know will be here long after I'm gone. So why would I risk it for the biscuit? Doesn't make sense to me. And Zach is like, yeah, you're so right. Ugh, if only somebody would drink this cold Irish brew with me. When Stack pops the cap off the beer bottle, that crisp sound really sends a shiver down Delta Sim's back, and he's like, ooh, girl, okay, I'll have some beers. If you give me $20, I'll be there. Stack is like, done deal. Let's do it. Sammy and Delta Slim start playing the blues for everybody at the train station, and they are loving it. But Sammy is having the absolute time of his life. The only thing that would make this better is if there was a beautiful woman smiling at him. Oh my God, there's a beautiful woman smiling at him, and she can sing? Invite her to the juke joint. But nothing good can last forever, because then Sammy notices that there is a white woman staring at him and Stack. Now what the heck is happening here on this day? When Stack notices the woman, he's just like, not this, anything but this. This is Mary, i.e. Haley Steinfeld. But Mary is apparently 1/8 black, which means that in this time that she is a black woman. She is technically passing as white, but she is not white. Does it make sense? No, but that's racism. So like, fun fact, Haley Steinfeld in real life is also 1/8 black. The more you know. So why is Mary here? Well, it turns out that yes, she is bitter about Stack and she would want to bite him like a rattlesnake if she could, but she is here because her mom died. But Stack doesn't care. He's like, I'm sorry your mom died, but like, I thought I left you in Chicago, so go back to Chicago. Get out of my sight, out of mind. His machismo is like fully on display right now, and I'm completely over it. But Mary is so pissed off by this. She's like, how dare you think that you have the authority over me to tell me how I should live my life? How dare you and anyone else tell me what I should be doing with my existence? You know what? I think I will show up tonight because I can. And you know what? Good for her. I love that she knows her rights. I really love Mary just because she's a bit of a feisty girl. Also, she has some of the crudest lines in this movie.
If you want to know what a motherfucking boss looks like, bitch, you looking at one. A bitch that handles big business.
Like, there's so much talk about cunnilingus in this movie. Never will you look at an ice cream cone the same way. And there's only one more person for Stack and Sammy to pick up, and that is Cornbread, who is technically going to be like the muscle for the night. Once they have him, they're ready. So let's check in with Smoke and see how his whole assembling of the team is going. Things are a bit tougher for him. He is constantly trying to fend off people who are trying to steal his alcohol, and he's just like, okay, let me shoot you in the knee. Casual. He ends up negotiating a deal with the Chinese shopkeepers who are going to provide him 100 catfish for the night and also make him a banner. Now that he has food, he just needs someone to cook it. But he's going to make a pit stop real quick to visit his dead child. Damn. Just like Stack, Smoke has a past here in Mississippi that he has to reconcile with. And who is his woman? Well, of course, it's Annie. Annie is played by Wumi Masako, and she is a bit of a med witch. I think that's the right term to use. If not, please let me know. I guess you could also like say a witch doctor. Is that the other term? And she has this very like ethereal, spiritual kind of existence that she truly believes in, but Smoke doesn't fully believe in it. How do they bond? Unsure, but she's a very strong woman who does not need anybody to support her. And I think that's what her and Smoke can like relate to on a level. And what's really nice is that like Smoke doesn't believe in all the spirituality, but like he still like takes her words and her heart into consideration and still like wears a little pendant around his neck that she made to protect him through everything that he's been through. And that is a good man. And obviously the vibes between Smoke and Annie are immaculate. And despite their past and ongoing tensions, things get a little steamy. Yes, they do. Yes, we love to see it. I don't know why Gen Z, I think it's like elder Gen Z too. I don't know why we're all like so afraid of seeing like sex on screen. When it's tastefully done and not done for like shock value or just like to fill up time really, I think there's a lot of inherent value to it. I think it gets awkward when like it's just for sex purposes and I'm like, okay, what am I getting from this flavor? I'm getting nothing. And like what I really want to explain about Sinners that works so well, especially in this whole like first act, is that we're seeing the roundup of the gang. We're seeing all of the characters who will be vital throughout the second and third act. We see these characters and we understand who they are in their relationship to our main characters and why we should care about them. And I think that is excellent storytelling. Like, we have empathy for these characters. And it's so frustrating to watch like that nothingness of a movie that I was just talking about, where they don't take the time to get you to care about the characters through simple dialogue. You don't need a lot of sentences. You need like a few little interactions that act as exposition, but they're also character building moments. The building of lore, the building of people's lives is so fundamental to cinema, and it's so fundamental to the vampire movie. Speaking of vampires, let's meet one. We get to meet this random ass man who fell out of the sky and is running towards a house in the middle of absolute nowhere from the Choctaw vampire hunters. Somebody tell me, did Ryan Coogler find inspiration from the Twilight movies? Yes. But he's able to slip away from the vampire hunters thanks to some Klansmen. I'm not gonna cheer them on. We don't do that in this house. Also, those vampire hunters say bye-bye because you will never see them again, even though we could really use them in the third act, let me tell you. Remick immediately turns this couple into vampires, and we get an iconic horror scream followed by a iconic sound cue. If this isn't cinema, I don't know what is. Also, take a shot every time I say cinema. You will be poisoned. I went into this movie thinking that the vampires were going to be racist vampires, but that's not the case at all, girly pops. And let me explain why. Remick is this Irish vampire who finds a lot of connection to smoke and stack into the black community in Mississippi. That is because he is from Ireland in a time when Britain, you know, the famous colonizer, came in and forced Christianity upon the people of Ireland and basically demonized their entire way of life. Coogler even talked about this a little bit on the Big Picture podcast and questioned who Remick would find solidarity with as he's wandering through life. And so the idea of a vampire wanting community and then wanting to be wanted by that community is extremely powerful. And so when Remick hears Sammy plays the blues, which opens this portal between time and space and past, future, and present, Remick is like, I want that in my life forever. And to get that in his life, he offers the illusion of freedom from religion and colonial oppression, with vampiric powers that can take out hate groups like the KKK. But when the community pushes back and tells Remick to get the heck out of here because they don't want him, he's just like, got it, let me be the oppressor now. Also, why does Remick want Sammy's spiritual powers? Great question. I don't think we ever get an answer. I think there's one single line where he's like, I want to connect with my ancestors. Okay, but why? Like, you're just trying to take a man's talent. Sir, you, like, what is your purpose? What do you want? That is a child. But here's the gag. I want you to know this here and now. These are traditional vampires with a little Puss in Boots twist. That means garlic, ew, sun, deadly, steaks, would kill anybody. But they can't enter a house unless they are invited in. I love a little bit of lore. Also, fun little fact that I think everyone is freaking out about right now. Their eyes glow. These vampire eyes glow. And that is straight up taken from the Death character from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. If you have not seen that movie, go watch that movie. It is fantastic. Antonio Banderas, the love of my life. I love you, baby girl. After shooing them away, the twins look at each other and like, we kind of need that money. So Mary pulls them aside and she goes, I'll go check them out since I am me, and I'll see what it's all about. Mary goes out to the trio and they're playing a little Irish dilly, and she's like, not bad. Not too terrifying. A little Irish for my taste, but you know, to each their own. Then she looks at Remick and he is drooling from his mouth, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go. But as she's walking back to the juke, Remick launches into the air. Mary, run. Hard cut, we're back in the joint. Mary's coming in to talk to Stack, and she's like, hey, can I talk to you for a little bit in this dark and secluded room? And he's like, yes. Things quickly get steamy, and then Mary starts to drool, and we're like, oh no, brother, she's a vamp. Stack points out that she's drooling, and Mary's like, do you want some? And he's like, yes. And she spits in his mouth. My entire theater went, like, it is Never was something so gross and hot to me at the same time. Like, that is cinema. We cut over to Smoke and Sammy who are talking, and he's like, where is my brother? Go tell him to get his little booty out here. So Sammy goes to go get Stack, opens the door, and sees a full-on scene happening. He's like, avert my eyes, I gotta go, so sorry. He goes to get Smoke, and he's like, I'm not gonna break that situation up. And Smoke is like, I have no fear of being a cockblock, let's go. He opens the door, and Mary is full-on chomping on Stack's neck. R.I.P. Stack, we hate to see it. Overcome with disbelief and grief, Smoke unloads an entire clip into Mary. She falls to the ground for 2 seconds and then stands up and she's like, okay, we're gonna kill all of you guys. What do you mean we? Mary takes off and Smoke goes over to Stack and he's just like, my brother. When your throat is ripped out like that, it is pretty hard to come back. Delta Slim is truly a man and is like, okay, time to end the party. Everyone, you gotta go home. You gotta get out of here. And so that means we are left with the shopkeepers, Bo and Grace, Perlene, the lady from the train station, Sammy, Delta Slim, Smoke, and Annie. So it's like a pretty good collective of like 7 people. Grace tells Bo to go get the car so that way they can go back to their kid and make sure everything is a-okay and cool. But Annie is realizing what the heck is going on. She's like, 1 + 1 = 2, they're vampires. And she's like, Smoke, I love you, honey bun, but you gotta get away from your brother. He's gonna be a vampire in like 4 seconds. And literally as soon as they close the door, Stack is up and ready to rumble. Obviously, Smoke is having a really hard time coming to terms with the fact that his brother now wants to kill him. And things get worse when Cornbread shows up and he's like, hi, what if you let me inside? Everyone is like, suspicious, you've never needed to be let inside before. I would like to see you come inside if you are able to. That's not how you would word it, but you know what I mean. And he's like, I'm pretty sure he's a vampire. And guess what? He is. Things get worse when Stack breaks through the door and he's like, I'm gonna bite ya. Luckily, Annie's like, pickled garlic juice, throws it onto Stack's face and he's like, I gotta go. When the gang is back in the safety of the juke, they start to hear some music playing from outside. They all peek their little heads out to see Rimick doing a little Irish jig with everybody that he turned into a vampire. And when I mean everybody who was once inside the juke. If you walked outside at any point after he showed up, you are a vampire. And the whole time, Rimick is just jamming hard going, it's all for you, Sammy. It's all for you, dude. Sammy is not impressed by this. And he's like, I hate to tell you, I don't want to be a vampire. Smoke is like, the only way I know how to answer this is with violence, so let's kill these vampires. Unfortunately, Rimick is a bit of a cunning dickhead, and he uses Bo to kind of lure Grace out, and he's like, hey girly pop, what if I started speaking Mandarin to you and told you that I was gonna kill your child? What if, imagine, I killed your child? Grace is pissed, and in a moment of rage is like, I dare you to come inside and get me. Grace, no. With an invitation, all of the vampires come inside and an all-out vampire fight starts. Grace immediately dies because she sets Bo on fire and stabs him with a stake, which then sets her on fire, and she's tried to a crisp. R.I.P. Grace, you were the problem. Delta Slim helps Sammy and Perlene get out of there by going, go to the top, I'll stop as many vampires as I can, and 5 vampires get his booty. R.I.P. Delta Slim. And during the fight where really Smoke is taking out almost all of the vampires, and so is Annie. Annie is really holding up her own. Annie does get bit by a vampire. Yeah, it's tough noodles. And because Annie doesn't want to become a vampire, she made Smoke promise her before the fight that he would end her life if that were to happen. And so he stakes her through the heart. R.I.P. Annie. She was my favorite character in this entire movie. Overcome by the grief of watching Annie die, Mary's like, I gotta go. Sammy and Perlene get cornered by Rimick at the top of the joint, and he takes a big old chunk out of Perlene. R.I.P. Perlene. We just lost like 4 characters in the span of like 5 minutes. What a movie. Sammy's like, you ain't getting me today, bitch, and jumps off the 2nd story window of the old mill and sprains his ankle. And he's like, Gotta get it good. Love it. While Remick continues to chase after Sammy, Smoke and Stack get into an all-out twin fight, to which Smoke gets the upper hand on Stack and is about to stake him in the heart. But then Stack gives us this little cunning smile, and you know something's brewing. Remick descends down onto Sammy into some water and is like, I'm gonna bite you and you are gonna like it. As he slashes Sammy's face and is about to bite him, Sammy starts to recite a prayer. And then Remick starts to also recite the same prayer, and he's like, I know that one. It was the same one the man who stole my daddy's land said. And he's like, your religion isn't freedom. It is a tool used to oppress you. So let me give you freedom. And as he's about to bite down, the guitar wades over to Sammy in the water. Sammy picks it up and slams it into Remick's hand. There is a silver dish on the guitar and it gets wedged into the man's skull. That is enough to weaken the man as Smoke comes to console Sammy as the sun starts to rise and catches all of the vampires on fire. Remick burns up in a tornado of flames, and it is probably the coolest image you will see of 2025. Smoke tells Sammy to live and get the heck out of here, to which Sammy does. But Smoke has some unfinished business to attend to. That's right, the clan has arrived. Just when you thought there weren't any more villains, the fucking Ku Klux Klan shows up. Ugh. Because he is a trained veteran, Smoke takes all these hoes down with calculation and a Tommy gun, and I love to see it. But as he's fighting, he gets fatally shot in the side, and things are looking grim. Things are even looking more grim when he sees Annie appear next to him with little baby breath in her hair and their child in her arms, and she's like, would you like to hold your child? Smoke reaches out for his child. Just then, the landowner has something witty to tell him, I guess. I don't know what he even said, and I don't care, because Smoke takes the gun and unloads a full-on clip into this man, and I've never cheered harder in my life. I was like, thank God. Smoke ends his story by reaching out and holding his child in the afterlife. R.I.P. Smoke. What a real one. Lucky for us, Sammy did survive. We catch up with Sammy in the church where his father is asking him to renounce the blues and choose salvation. But Sammy refuses because music is his salvation. In the mid-credit scene, we catch up with Sammy, who has a long and successful career as a blues musician, even has his own club called Perline, but he is now near death. He's having a final drink when two familiar faces pop up in the club. Yes, folks, it is Stack and Mary. They are back. Stack reveals that he was spared by Smoke that night as long as he promised to not hurt Sammy. He asked Sammy, after all these years of living in peace, if he would like to live forever and continue playing music that really shapes the world. To which Sammy says, no, thank you. Stack then asks if Sammy would play him one last song, to which Sammy obliges. And before he leaves, Sammy has one question to ask Stack. He asks him, do you ever think about that night? Because despite all that haunts me from that day, I really think it was the best day of my life. Stack turns and says that he does, because it was his last true day of freedom. The last day he felt the sun, and the last day he was with his brother. These sinners. Oh my God, I'm crying. As you can tell, I really like this movie. I do think that there are some points of it that are a bit flawed because they're not super fleshed out. The ideas are there, but they're not fully executed to the scale of which they could be. But I think there's so much meat on the bone that I don't even really truly care if not everything is perfectly executed. For the most part, most of the movie is really well put together. It is really well crafted. My only wish is that the horror of this movie was a bit more horror and that it wasn't so rushed through. Imagine if we didn't watch 4 characters die back to back so quickly in succession with each other. That would be amazing. Breathing Room would be so nice to build the tension a little bit, let us mourn characters that we've come to love, and also just feel the impact of their death just a bit more. Could this movie have been 4 hours long? Yes, and I would have not had a single issue with it. Coogler has this beautiful storytelling ability, this beautiful craft and skill where he just makes you care about everything that appears on screen. And I think it's because he cares about everything that appears on screen, and that is truly great artistry. Everything is layered with subtext. Everything is rich with texture and thought through, and the history and the drama of it all. It's just everything matters and is executed with intention, and I love it. Or maybe that this story just needed a few ideas trimmed and taken out of the movie, just so we had that space to allow the horror to really thrive and make that climax not feel so anticlimactic. Overall, I'm gonna give this movie a solid B+. I know, controversial. I know it's a bit of a low score for how great this movie is. I do think it is like an essential viewing of 2025. You know what? No. Scratch it. I'm gonna give it an A-. I feel like it's such an important movie. I feel like it's a cultural touchstone that we're all talking about. It's just, you can feel the misses, but you can really celebrate the highs. So yeah, Sinners gets an A-. Why not? Should you go and watch this movie? Of course you should. It is a must-watch movie. I don't know what else to tell you. But I would love to know your thoughts on Sinners in the comments down below. I can't wait to read them and see what you took away from this movie. As always, leave a like, comment, subscribe. You can also follow me over on TikTok, on Instagram, on Letterboxd. Next week, I will be covering Until Dawn. I'm currently watching all the gameplay for that right now, so I can just be one of those people who's like, the movie's not like the game. But until then, I will see you at the movies. Bye.